Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea, breaking down the latest Chelsea news on a regular basis. Today going to be talking a little bit more about last night's wonderful result and performance against Crystal Palace. Also, the race for Sergio Aguero. Will Chelsea be getting the Man City striker in the summer when his contract ends and he does leave the Citizens? I think that's a really interesting talking point because, of course, it seems Chelsea will be looking to bring in some new strikers in the summer, and could Agüero be one of those? Donnarumma as well. I want to speak about him in today's episode because there have been so many links to him in the summer regarding Chelsea's goalkeeping situation. Before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content because it helps out the channel as well. Didn't want to just brush over last night's win because the unfortunate thing about the way the current season is and how many games Chelsea are playing in a short space of time is you easily forget good performances, you easily forget good results, and you can't really savour them that much. Chelsea were exceptional last night, I think, in terms of their attacking. Some of the best attacking we've seen from Chelsea. You can watch my review, going to be up in the cards, my rational perspective, already up on the channel. Please go and watch that if you haven't already, dissecting the game a little bit more on my reaction to it. But just looking at some of the stats last night, especially Mason Mount, who was wonderful once again. He didn't score last night, but he was exceptional creatively once again. Most league assists for Chelsea since the start of the 19-20 season. Mason Mount top of that list with 9. Looking at Mason Mount's game by numbers from Squawka here, it's just sensational. It really is for such a young player. So consistent, and it was great last night that he didn't have to do everything by himself, because it has felt like at times creatively Mason has been that focal player for us, but both Pulisic and Kai Havertz stepped up massively last night. Was so good. I think it was difficult to sort of decipher who was man of the match. I think for me it was Christian Pulisic, I think overall, but Kai had a wonderful instrumental display as well in terms of his creativity, his movement, his play as that number 9. Everything you would want from a number 9 last night from Kai Havertz. His movement in that role was so impressive, and I think it shows you the quality of player Chelsea did invest in. Our XG last night, pretty close to what we actually scored. You know, Chelsea in terms of their XG under Thomas Tuchel hasn't been that high, but last night it was a lot higher than usual. Chelsea creatively being a lot more daring and a lot more expressive, which is what we want to see with the creative talent we currently have. And as well, Kurt Zouma scoring once again, most goals scored by a defender in the Premier League this season. Kurt Zouma top of that list with 5, with John Stones and Lewis Dunk behind him. Let's hope the confidence from last night's performance now can go into the Porto and Man City games. I hope now with that type of attacking, of course it's not always going to be that consistent, that level of performance I think is very hard to maintain, but just in a sense that Chelsea, with the talent we've invested in over recent years, the talent we have within this team, you want to see those type of expressive performances a lot more, because they're just so fun to watch and savour. So let's hope we see a bit more of that great attacking with players like Pulisic, Kai and Mason coming into form at the right time of the season. But let's look forward to next season. Let's look forward, of course, to the summer, the transfer window. So much stuff about Chelsea going in for a striker. We spoke about Erling Haaland, Romelu Lukaku, many names. James Ollie for ESPN wrote this piece sort of about the summer and the pandemic market and how Chelsea can still benefit from it, and sort of Chelsea going in for strikers. This was just a little bit of a segment financially for Chelsea that I thought was interesting to bring up before we go into Sergio Aguero. He said there'll be significant change in the strikers at Chelsea. Timo Werner has struggled badly in his first season and needs support given Olivier Giroud is set to depart as a free agent, while talks over a new deal for Tammy Abraham have stalled. If they land Haaland, great, but Agero is viewed as a possible alternative, heading a shortlist that also features Inter's Lautaro Martinez. I remember on this channel speaking about Lautaro Martinez almost at the same time last year. If you're watching the channel, a long time subscriber, when we were linked to Lautaro Martinez eventually getting Timo Werner last year. We've had so much debate and so much discussion and rumour about Erling Haaland that's a consistent thing. It seems like Chelsea will be going out there and trying to spend big in this area once again. Aguero, of course, announcing he's departing Man City at the end of the season, so there's been many clubs linked to him this week. Today, a report came out from TYC Sports claiming that Chelsea are leading the race. Simon Johnson wrote this piece a couple of days ago about Aguero to Chelsea, how sort of players like Eto'o and Drogba have shown it can work as a plan B, potentially in the summer if Chelsea want to get a new striker in. And sort of goes into sort of the unique situation we find ourselves in with Aguero and sort of fan opinion about him at the moment, that he would be regarded as an underwhelming consolation prize because of the crave to get Erling Haaland this summer with so many clubs in for him. Agüero, I think, would be a really good signing. There's no doubt about that. His Premier League experience, one of the Premier League greats. There's no way around it. He has been one of the greatest Premier League strikers we've seen. He has been exceptional, a legend for Man City. Such a big part of their success. You think of all the historic moments in Premier League history. I mean, the goal he scored in 2012 will go down as one of the best moments in Premier League history. It really will. But you think about the amount of goals he scored consistently throughout his career, the quality of a player like that in what is a physical league to excel so much. His first touch, his finishing, his movement under Pep Guardiola too. I remember when Guardiola arrived at Man City, there was some doubt whether Agüero in, say, a false nine system could flourish, but you think about their 2 title-winning seasons, he was wonderful for them there. So there's no denying that Agüero arriving at a club that, is typical of Chelsea, really is. We've seen this in the past, where Chelsea signing a player that they wanted in their prime earlier, how close we were apparently to signing Agüero. 2010, 2011, before he joined Man City, when he was at Atletico Madrid, that never materialised. He went to Man City. The rest is history. So getting Agüero at this stage of his career, my only concern would be his injury record. His injuries have been a consistent problem throughout his career. This season, it's really halted him. His first, I think, Premier League goal came against Fulham recently. I think, of course, when I'm bringing up doubts about Sergio Aguero, there's no doubts about his quality as a finisher. If you could keep him fit for a season, there's a potential there's one good season left in Sergio Aguero. My only concern would be his ability to maintain fitness over a season, because there's always this sense, I think, with the exception of a couple of years in his Premier League career, you always expect he's going to be out for 2 months or so, a year. That's always been his issue. And I just wonder at his age, when, we see it with older players like Thiago Silva this year, when you get those injuries, it takes you longer to recover. I still think I'd personally prefer Chelsea as a main option to go for someone like Erling Haaland or Romelu Lukaku. I just think it's a better investment. Agüero, Chelsea could be leading the race for Agüero, but I don't think that would solve all our problems. Once again, I know there are people having a go at me for, questioning the talent of Agüero. He has been one of the great strikers, in recent years. He really has. But I just wonder, at his age and his fitness problems, can Chelsea rely on him for what would be a very intense season to really lead us to, say, a Premier League title charge? Again, I think there would be obviously motivation for Agüero to maybe stay in England and prove himself again at a top club, still maintain those high levels within his career. I still think, as ridiculous as it may have sounded in recent years, Agüero as sort of plan B. I think plan A will be someone like Haaland. Personally, for me, as I've stated before, I think Romelu Lukaku is my number one choice, because I think he's such a great option for Chelsea. I think the perfect option for Chelsea this summer if that move could happen. Let me know your opinions on Sergio Aguero. I think he would fit in so well under Tuchel's system. He knows the Premier League, kind of guaranteed Premier League goals at this point in his career. He's been so good, and we see the impact Thiago Silva at his age has given to Chelsea, experience in what is such a key position. We've seen Olivier Giroud thrive too for Chelsea. Let me know your opinions on Aguero and those links in the comments below. And the second part is another player that has been linked for many months, Gianluigi Donnarumma from AC Milan. Sort of the future being up in the air of AC Milan, sort of his contract. Will he stay? Will he go? If there is a club coming in for him, could that be Chelsea? Last week here, Gazzetta claiming that an unnamed club have offered Gianluigi Donnarumma 10.2 million a year to sign the goalkeeper this summer. Chelsea are named as a potential suitor, but we did get a much more reliable source in Fabrizio Romano tweeting about this in response to this link, saying that 7 days ago, there's nothing as of today between Chelsea, Raiola and Donnarumma. Let's see what happens in the next weeks. That's another thing to mention. Mino Raiola, of course, being involved with Erling Haaland, Donnarumma. Would Chelsea, with all the politics and all the fallout of Raiola, would they go in for 2 Raiola players in one summer? That's a big question mark. And also Fabrizio Romano, who you have to trust based on his track record, saying there's nothing between Chelsea and Donnarumma and Raiola at the moment. So we have to see what happens in the future. I think, Edouard Mendy has done so well this season. He really has. These stats recently, especially in the Champions League, which Chelsea are doing well in at the moment, having the most clean sheets for Chelsea in a single Champions League campaign over Petr Cech, 7 clean sheets for Mendy. The way he's dominated that position, the way he's improved, I think the fact, all the fear and sort of the unpredictability of that position and the fear over that position last season because of Kepa Arrizabalaga's form, Chelsea needing to sign someone. I think it's proved that sometimes Chelsea don't need to go and break their transfer record to improve a key area of the pitch. But I think Donnarumma, his age, I think he's been around for so long, but he's still such a young player in what is a big position. And, you think about his aerial dominance that, of course, Edouard Mendy has. And if Chelsea could sign him, I think there's a logic to it, long-term signing. Of course, you think about the longevity of a keeper during their career can go on much longer than, say, an outfield position. You feel like Donnarumma could be such an amazing acquisition for Chelsea. I think Kepa Arrizabalaga, as I've stated before, that situation simply has to be resolved this summer. Will Chelsea find a suitor, a loan move potentially, and then you could maybe free up space for Donnarumma? I'm not entirely sure. I think that's such a big question mark for Chelsea. Kepa Arrizabalaga, politically, who's going to be able to sign him in the current market as well? Even with Chelsea having a lot of money, there's still teams. The wages of Kepa too, I think that's such a big thing for Chelsea to resolve before we go out there and spend a lot on the keeper, even if it is only wages. I think that Donnarumma, that would be the big question mark over him. Absolutely, I think it would be an amazing signing. I think it would only bolster what has been a strong position for Chelsea this season, with Mendy being such a good signing. Let me know your opinions on Donnarumma, Mendy as well. Let me know in the comments below. Would you like to see Donnarumma be a key sort of priority signing for Chelsea this summer? Let me know in the comments below. And finally, before I wrap up today's episode, I just want to shout out this piece by Adam Newsom of Football London. Going to have Adam Newsom probably on the channel at some point in the future. Really great guy, but also going to be on my podcast every other Sunday with James McIntosh post Porto this week, so I'll make sure to share a clip about that. But he wrote a piece about how Reiss James has proved Frank Lampard right in Chelsea's Champions League win over Porto, of course written before the Crystal Palace win, but we saw Reiss James' impact off the bench last night. Great to see him getting an assist finally. I know it was deflected, but I give that assist to Reiss James. He's had so many assists robbed this season. And yeah, Reiss has been brilliant. He really has. And I definitely suggest you go and read Adam's pieces. He writes a lot of good pieces about Chelsea. I'll leave the link in the description box below. Reiss has really excelled this year. I think defensively, that's been the part of his game that needed to improve to maintain his sort of time in the team. And he's absolutely done that. His physicality. And the great thing is at the moment in his three-back system that Tuchel has implemented, you can keep Dave in the team as leader alongside Reiss James. And I think the way Reiss James has recovered after not being sort of a guaranteed starter under Tuchel in those early weeks, but a bit like Mason Mount, a bit like the other young players, have shown their quality and are now a vital part of the system once again. So please go and read that piece. Let me know your opinions on Reiss James and sort of the future of him. He's been brilliant for me, one of Chelsea's best players this season, in the comments below. But that is it for this edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch it. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea. Have a great Sunday and I'll see you again